Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you had a nice long holiday weekend. Welcome to the Northern Kentucky Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Brookbank. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Lacy Starling of Link NKY. She highlights the work that Link NKY is doing in the community and how NKY Chamber members can save on advertising. We are also joined by Matt Hollenkamp of St. Elizabeth Healthcare. He showcases their new marketing campaign and how the organization is staying on top of advanced healthcare. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CKREU, Google and Amazon advertising experts. Let's go hear from that sponsor, meet our members of the week, and we will be back with this week's guests.
Ranking on Google Search and Maps is easy to understand, but hard to do. It requires constant effort and attention, uploading new photos, responding to Google reviews, writing weekly posts, and checking suggested updates. Google listing optimization takes experience and time, and there are no shortcuts. CKREU gives your Google My Business account the steady, consistent attention it needs to be effective, optimizing, updating, and expanding critical content every single week. From local retail stores to large regional networks, CKREU generates content, establishes benchmarks, and creates dramatic, measurable increases in engagement. So what can CKREU do for your business? More calls, more clicks, more clients.
Congratulations to our members of the week. You can learn more about these businesses by following the Northern Kentucky Chamber on social media, where we highlight one of these businesses each day. Now, let's meet our members of the week. The City of Crestview Hills is a local government that prides itself on upstanding service and community. Whether it's new builds, renovations, or alterations, the foundation of MSA Design's success lies in the strong relationships they forge. Action Exteriors Cincinnati works to build your home right with action. Professional roofing, siding, gutters, and windows backed by a family legacy of craftsmanship and care. Merkle Landscape Solutions is a full-service lawn care, landscape, and grounds maintenance contractor servicing the Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati tri-state area.
Hi everybody, it's Katie Forcade, and I'm joined here today with the one, the only Lacy Starling from Link Media. How are you doing today, Lacy?
Oh, I'm really well, thanks, Katie.
Awesome. Now, talk to me a little bit. I know Link Media does so much for the community. There's so much going on. Recently acquired City Beat. Just take me through what all Link Media does.
Yeah, absolutely. So Link Media was founded 5 years ago to fill a news gap that existed in Northern Kentucky. So we knew that there was a lot happening in Northern Kentucky that wasn't getting covered. And so we created Link NKY in order to cover Boone, Kenton, and Campbell County. And so we've been doing that for almost 5 years now. But as you said, in December, we had the opportunity to acquire City Beat. So now we have an arts and culture publication that covers both sides of the river, not just Cincinnati, but also Northern Kentucky and what's happening here, which is really exciting. We do print, we do digital, we have podcasts, we have newsletters, all of that.
That's amazing. And that does bring me to my next question, because I know I've seen them show up in my inbox and everything like that. You know, all the e-newsletters, all of the, just print materials that you create and send home to everybody. Talk to me a little bit about, what all you do with trying to keep up with that. I know journalism is just an ever-changing landscape, so it's really hard to keep up with. But what all do you do to try to make sure you keep up with it? Are we shifting away from things more now, or?
So when we first started, Michael Monks, who many of the listeners will know, had River City News. And one of his absolute demands as he joined our organization was that he wanted to do a print product. And I thought that was kind of crazy because we've been told forever and ever, print is dead, print is dead. And it turned out to be one of the smartest things that he could have possibly done out of many smart things that Michael did in his time, both before Link and with Link. And we have focused on what we call our super issues, which are those publications that go out to every single household in Northern Kentucky. So we print and mail 173,000 plus issues of those super issues. It's election coverage. Our next one coming out is about healthcare. We talk about education, all of that. So we have those super issues. That's really interesting because it allows us to cut through the noise. Mm-hmm. So with our media landscape now, everything is digital. Everybody's being fed everything algorithmically. My internet is different from your internet, is different from all of our viewers and listeners' internet. It is really, really hard to get an entire community on the same page about anything. Right. And so those super issues really cut through that. Facebook doesn't have to feed it up to you. Instagram doesn't have to feed it to you. It just comes right to your mailbox at home, you can take time, you can read it, you can look through it. But that's not to say that we don't also do digital, right? It's the year of our Lord 2026. We absolutely are a digital first publication. So the majority of our breaking news gets published online. We have 5 email newsletters for Link NKY that we publish on a weekly basis. And then at City Beat, we have a bi-weekly print publication. So that is distributed free at lots of different locations. Here in Northern Kentucky, it's at places like Ludlow Coffee and the Party Source and Spark House, but then also digital for them and newsletters for them. So we're trying to meet everybody where they are. That's the really difficult thing about journalism in our current day and age, is that it's really hard to find people where they are, break through the noise, and get them the information that they need about either what's happening in their community that they need to vote on or take action on, or the fun stuff that's happening in our community that they should know about with the symphony and restaurants and retail and all of that.
That's, a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot. So I guess, in terms of, you are everywhere. You try to make yourselves everywhere. I know Northern Kentucky Chamber members get a really good discount advertising with y'all to help make themselves be everywhere. Take me a little bit through how that works and what that discount looks like.
Absolutely. So I've been a small business owner pretty much my entire adult life, and we've been members of the chamber. I sit on the board of the chamber. It was really important to me that we make local advertising accessible for businesses of all sizes. So typically the way that Link's pricing work is you get discounts if you spend over $10,000 a year. Right. That's a big spend for a lot of small businesses to do on advertising, especially in one place. So, we work together with the chamber to say any chamber member making a buy of any size can get a 10% discount on advertising without having any kind of minimum spend. And that's on Link NKY, that's in our print editions, that's on City Beat, that's in the newsletters, that's everywhere. And for me, it was really about, my daughter said the funniest thing to me the other day. She said, we were talking about social media and how she's not allowed to have social media yet. And she was like, well, before social media, like if we didn't have social media, how would businesses get the word out about who they are? And I said, the local paper was how that used to happen. That's how that used to happen. And I think it's still a really great place for local businesses to promote what they're doing and to reach out to the entire community of Northern Kentucky, and now to reach into Cincinnati as well.
Definitely. Now, when you talk about, a lot of local businesses can take part in this, when you think of who should really be paying attention and wanting to take advantage of something like this, tell me a little bit about who should really specifically hone in on this and take advantage of it.
Absolutely. So if your ideal customer is in Northern Kentucky or in Cincinnati, we are really a spot for it. We work really well for business to consumer. So B2C customers really do well with us. Although we also have products that work if you're selling B2B, if you're trying to reach a very specific audience. But in general, if you are a business that is trying to reach people who are in Northern Kentucky to tell them about what you do, what you have to offer, your product, your service, Link is a great vehicle for that. Those super issues are in front of everybody. People always ask about mailers. And I always say, especially this political season that we just came through, it was just mailer. One person I know got 19 in one day. Ooh. And what I do when I get postcards in the mail, typically, is I take them and I stand over my recycle tub and I just sort of
figure out.
I sort, I chuck, all of those sorts of things. With the super issue, you get the benefit of being in everybody's household, but it's in something that folks will want to keep, look through. We try to make the content in those super issues have enough staying power that they live on the coffee table, right? So the front half might be the primary election, but the back half is going to be, here's all the fun things you can do this summer with your family.
Gotcha.
So let's keep that, or let's cut it out. I call them fridge clippers. That's how old I am, because that's what we did when I was young in business. It was like, or in the newspaper industry, it was like, oh, let's make a fridge clipper. So someone cuts it out and puts it up on their fridge.
Yep.
And so it's those businesses that want to reach folks in their home where they're looking for information about Northern Kentucky, about their community, and can really take advantage of that.
Awesome. And are there any businesses specifically that appeal more to readers that should consider this? Or is it pretty much anybody who feels they should have a spot can do it?
I mean, I think it's anybody. I think there are ways that we can target if you are looking for more B2B sales. There are absolutely products that we have, newsletters, our business newsletter that we send out on Tuesdays, right? That for me is a great place for B2B, because it's everybody who's looking for what's the latest business news in Northern Kentucky. And then if you have you're really into music or you're a venue or something
Right.
like that, City Beat is a great platform for that. So I think it's really understanding what are your customers looking for. And then just in general, again, people in Northern Kentucky need all kinds of things.
Yes.
They need roofs, they need cars, they need, sheets and blankets for their house. They
Yes.
need gifts for people. They need places to go eat. All of that you can talk about in our advertising. And then our super issues have specific topics.
Right.
So like I mentioned, our next one that we have coming out is about healthcare. So anybody who's in the healthcare industry or, working in something medically adjacent or health adjacent, that's a great spot to be because people are already primed and ready to receive that kind of information.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And in terms of, somebody sees this, goes, oh my gosh, I have to take advantage of this. I'm a chamber member. This would be perfect. How can they get in contact with you to start taking advantage of this?
Absolutely. So if you go on our website, we have an advertise button that you can push. It takes you to our advertising page. You can also just email us at sales@linknky.com. Also, again, I'm on the board of the chamber. I am happy to take phone calls or text messages or emails from anybody, but reaching out any of those ways, there's also forms on our site that you can fill out to say, hey, I'm interested. And then somebody from our sales team will get back to you right away.
Amazing. That sounds pretty easy.
Yes. Yeah, we try. I mean, anyone who's in sales, we try to make it easy to sell to people. So yes. Not a lot of barriers to entry there.
Amazing. Is there anything coming up with Link Media that you want to share or tease to the world?
Yes. This fall we have an election. And again, I'm not sure when this is going to hit the airwaves, but it will be before the election. And it's a really important one. We have more candidates running for office this year than we have in recent history, which is amazing. It means that people are participating in the process. It is such a point of passion for us. We have a small staff. And no joke, there are 289 candidates in competitive races in Northern Kentucky. That's just the competitive races
Oh my goodness.
in Northern Kentucky this fall. And people need to pay attention. They need to understand what's happening. I think the national races get a lot of attention, but really when it comes down to what are you paying in property taxes, what kind of schools are your kids going to, what's happening with the streets and roads outside your house, right? All these things. Yes. Are you allowed to have chickens in your backyard in Northern Kentucky, right?
That's a big question.
It's a big question. And it depends on where you live. All of those questions are answered at the local level. And so it is just critically important, I think, that people participate with the process on the local level.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see so many candidates out there. We are going to be holding candidate events. We are going to be doing, obviously, another super issue in the fall that is an election super issue. We're going to be covering every single one of those competitive races. And so I just really want to encourage people to tune in, pay attention, and vote. And I think that's really, really critical. So that's what our whole fall is. So from now until November 5th, that's what we're doing at Link is we're interviewing candidates.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Sounds like a busy summer and fall that we're setting ourselves up for, but very much looking forward to seeing all the coverage and just everything you all do for Northern Kentucky and even now greater Cincinnati area as a whole. Lacy, is there anything I have missed asking just for the good of the group that you would like to share overall?
No, I would just say, make sure that you're tuned in. You're either receiving our email newsletters, you go to our website on a daily basis when that super issue comes, go ahead and look through. And if you're a chamber member, really reach out because we'd love to help you get the word out about your business.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lacy.
Thanks, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Matt Hollenkamp of St. Elizabeth. Matt, it's so great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
I am excited to talk about St. Elizabeth. Usually when I have podcast guests on, I'm like, tell us about your company. But St. Elizabeth Healthcare, you guys are so well established and doing great work here in Northern Kentucky. I feel like so many people come to you for all their healthcare needs. But give us a general overview about what you do at St. Elizabeth.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that people are aware. That's part of our role. My role at St. Elizabeth Healthcare is to promote and help people understand and educate them on what we do and how they can access St. Elizabeth. So my role at St. Elizabeth Healthcare, I'm the VP of Marketing and Communications. I've been in that position for a little over 10 years and very proud to serve in that role for the organization.
Yeah, very exciting. And you guys have a new ad campaign that people are going to see rolling out that's challenging the idea that people have to leave Kentucky to get good healthcare. Tell us about this campaign you guys are launching.
Yeah, this is, we've had, in my time, in 10 years, this is the fourth iteration of our ad campaigns. This one's taken a little bit of a different path and a different approach, I'll say. I think most people probably are aware of our I'm Right Here campaign. I hope they are. That's part of my job, again, to make people aware of that. So, and that started about 8-9 years ago. We still have that as a bit of the ethos of how we talk about and communicate St. Elizabeth Healthcare. This is a little bit of a shift. And I'll say a bit of the insight, or even the strategy, I should say, before that is, if you look over the last 3 to 4 years with St. Elizabeth Healthcare, and again, I hope people know this by now, but some don't, our quality and how we've elevated that, our quality of healthcare, which is, there's nothing more important, right, in healthcare, is great experiences, a great patient experience, great quality outcomes. We can see a tangible growth, a tangible improvement in that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, as we measure it, just from our perspective in marketing, last year, the perception that we offer the highest quality of care in the region in Northern Kentucky went up significantly. So we see, acceleration and growth in that regard. And that's because as we've been ranked, with 3 CMS 5-star hospitals and the number 1 ranked hospital in Kentucky, that's noted and people see that. So it's capitalizing on that growth and understanding, but at the same time, there's still, I'll say, another consumer insight that exists that, like, well, if I need to have something really serious from a healthcare perspective, I need to travel elsewhere. And this isn't really something that's like just germane to Northern Kentucky or our region. It's really kind of a national healthcare perspective that, like, well, I need to go somewhere far away for something that's like really complex. And so it's taking that simple insight and say, well, you know what, that's not true. I mean, we know from what we have been, again, how we've advanced ourselves in the last several years, the physicians we've recruited, the procedures we are providing, and some of the service lines as a part of this campaign is something that we know challenges that notion. So we're excited to have this launched.
Yeah, and so you guys are going to be featuring different patients. Tell us a little bit about those patients. Tell us a little bit about how you found these people.
Yeah, and so I think, and anyone that's listening here, that works in marketing communications, I think one word that comes to mind as to why we do what we do is storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all are called to tell stories, and compelling stories, engaging stories, ones that people can really engage with and just connect with. And so this whole campaign is rooted in real stories. Sometimes you see ad campaigns, and not just in healthcare, where it's like, is that real, or are those actors? These are real patients, real people that chose not to travel elsewhere. And so it really started with that. It's like, 4 people in this case. So, and we call them like little mini movies. So docuseries, 4 little movies we've created with people that, had the opportunity and did do a little bit of looking and shopping elsewhere, way elsewhere out of this region, and thought, whoa, like, I don't have to go elsewhere for the care that I need. And we think that we selected 4 people that have some pretty diverse situations, I'll just say, demographically, their ages, and just, what they were encountering, and their, standing in the community, and who they are as people. And so I think it really gives a good flavor, I think, for, just the makeup of our community.
Yeah, and you mentioned 4 different people, different walks of life. Can you touch on, are there spoilers you can give us about maybe one of the stories that you guys are telling?
Yeah, so I can go through all 4 if you'd like
Yeah,
to
that'd
give
be great.
spoilers. Or so I know, there's some people you probably know, I'll just say. So, and I'll start with someone who's been sharing his story over the last, I guess, about year, is Dave Knox, who's the executive director of Blue North and leads Spark House in Covington. I'm also on the board of Blue North, and Dave's a friend of mine. Dave was diagnosed with cancer, and he's married with 2 teenage kids, and this leader in the community for us, and well thought of, and a thought leader, and certainly he's someone that is an innovator and wants the best. And so he's like, look, I need to get the very best care, right, from a cancer perspective. And he did think about where do we need to go, and certainly, other options beyond St. Elizabeth entered his mind. But when it came down to it, he came to St. Elizabeth Healthcare, and he received great care, and he's in a, I'll just say he's in a great spot right now. And so that's part of the story is telling his story a little bit in a deeper way. So that's Dave. And I'll just kind of go in random order here, but we have another young mom. Her name's Brittany, who had a child that almost lost his life and needed some serious medical care through our NICU. And again, when you have a child and there's a very slim chance they could live, you'll do anything possible. You'll go anywhere, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. No holds barred, right? Even if you live in Northern Kentucky. And certainly, what we have to offer in our birthing center is second to none. Having a level 3 NICU And so that's a wonderful, I'll say there's some tear jerkers in these stories,
Yeah.
by the way. You can't watch them without probably.
No, I'm thinking about it. I'm crying a little.
Oh boy. No, I've watched them many times. I still get choked up.
Yeah.
And we have a lady, her name's Denise. She's a little bit older. Her husband, a plastic surgeon. So, very, understands the medical world and someone who really gets it. And, she has congestive heart failure. And was very serious and ultimately needed heart surgery. And so she was looking everywhere, for that, right? And so you kind of think, I need to go to the Cleveland Clinic or whatnot, and no, you don't. And so that's a really powerful story. And then the last one is a young lady that works for us at St. Elizabeth. Although before she had the experience with us before she chose to work at St. Elizabeth. She works in our HR division, and that's a story of surgery that she, based on a need that she had, and so just again, 4 really unique and powerful stories, and so those are rolling out right now. I've had 2 that just came out, and so again, they're like movies. They really truly are. And we're teasing them through different forms of communication, almost like trailers, and so the TV ads kind of act as trailers, and then the other 2 will come out later this summer.
Yeah, well, that's so exciting. And one of the things you really mentioned a couple of times is this idea of innovation, this idea that St. Elizabeth is on the forefront of everything, especially in the medical field. Tell us how you guys are stepping up. Tell us some of the innovations that you guys are seeing, especially as healthcare and all these things speed up.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to kind of come back to the stories that we're telling and why we're telling those stories, right? For things that we're leading the way, and in some cases nationally or even internationally. And so in the case of our heart surgery program, we do fully endoscopic heart surgery, so minimally invasive. So we don't have to open the chest, and that leads to better outcomes, less pain, better recovery for the patients. And so we have surgeons at St. Elizabeth that truly are top notch in the country and even the world. We say global leaders in heart surgery. So our Young Family Cancer Center, that center came online in 2020, and we've been telling that story for several years, and I think people are generally aware of it, but you can't tell that story enough, especially with new oncologists we recruit to come work in the cancer center, some that are tremendous specialists in what they do, are very well known, and come from places that are some of the best trained places in the country. But what we provide there, the multidisciplinary approach to cancer care, is quite unique. You have everything in one house. Our approach to precision medicine to really diagnose and treat the cancer at a very specific level. And then one thing that I think is really powerful, I know I hear from cancer patients, is our Nurse Navigator program. So having the ability to have a nurse who is side by side with the cancer patient all the way through their journey is another part of what we do, from a cancer perspective that we hear as just a real differentiator. So those are some of the ways that we innovate. I'll just say another in surgery. We are the leader in robotic surgeries. So that's a very advanced way to have a surgery. I think maybe the old school way of thinking is you have to be, opened up, and that kind of thing. But when you have a robotic, technical capability, it makes the surgery happen in a way that, again, better outcomes, less pain, better recovery for the patient, better experience overall.
Yeah, and that's all really exciting to hear, knowing that you guys in our backyard, in our neighborhood, are providing that care. Last question I want to ask you. You guys are a big community partner here in Northern Kentucky. Tell us a little bit about how you guys are showing up as a partner within the community.
Yeah, we take our role as a community partner and leader very seriously. We're very proud of that. It's one of our core strategies, is being a community convener, a community leader. First and foremost, it shows up in the way that we provide community benefit back to the community. So nearly $100 million of community benefit a year. Much of that in uncompensated care, but in other ways, it's sponsoring events. It's helping sponsor organizations. The Chamber of Commerce is one of those.
Yeah,
it's a really strong partner of ours. And that's from an advocacy perspective, making sure we're advocating for what's best in Northern Kentucky. Certainly leading from a health perspective. And so there's health initiatives. I can start naming tons of organizations that we support that are very important to us. But it's a very important role that we play in the community.
Yeah, and it's been so great to have you on the podcast to really highlight this innovation, this new ad campaign that I will be keeping my eyes peeled for. Matt, before I let you go, final thoughts, anything else I didn't ask that our viewers and listeners need to know about St. Elizabeth?
Yeah, and it's not so much St. Elizabeth per se as it is just the general healthcare economic environment that's pretty challenging that we're trying to navigate. We're a nonprofit health system. We've been around for 165 years. I think we're one of the great stories in Northern Kentucky history, speaking of storytelling. And so, we take our role as a community leader and our healthcare provider very seriously. But, there's challenging situations we're dealing with. And I think understanding that is important for the entire community, right, as we try to overcome them and to ensure we provide the highest quality of care for our community.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was great to have you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you to our Investors Circle members. Our Investors Circle members help us promote and support the development of strong businesses and a vibrant economy in the Northern Kentucky region. Thank you to all of these members for their investment, which will help the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce in our mission to develop and grow a thriving business community. Northern Kentucky needs tailored solutions to address our housing shortage. Home for All, Northern Kentucky Housing Strategies, explores how we can retain young adults, help older residents downsize or age in place, and ensure new neighbors have housing options that fit their lives. Dive into the report at housingNKY.org.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode of the podcast featuring Link NKY and St. Elizabeth Healthcare. If you are interested in taking advantage of your member benefit and saving on advertising at Link NKY, you can learn more at nkychamber.com/savings, or you can contact Link directly at linknky.com/advertise. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, CKREU, Google and Amazon advertising experts. And I hope you did not get enough celebration this weekend as we celebrated the United States' 250th birthday, because we are keeping the party going here at the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. Our 2026 annual dinner theme is America's History, Northern Kentucky's Future. We invite you to Northern Kentucky's biggest night on September 17th, where we'll celebrate past accomplishments, highlight current growth, look ahead to future projects, and honor this year's award winners. As you know, annual dinner is a sellout event. We recommend you get your tickets now at nkychamber.com/events. And finally, if you are a member who would like to be featured on the podcast, or if you're someone who is interested in joining the Northern Kentucky Chamber, please reach out to Lynn Ablin. You can find her contact information on the screen or at our staff directory at nkychamber.com/staff. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next week.